Marcus Chen's cargo ship tore through the crystal gardens of the Velanthari Palace, and when he crawled from the wreckage, he found himself staring up at the most beautiful alien woman he had ever seen. Pain shot through Marcus' body as his left shoulder throbbed with each ragged breath. His eyes fluttered open just in time to catch a glimpse of crystalline walls that seemed to pulse with an eerie light, their edges sharp and unforgiving against the pristine snow outside. He squinted, trying to make sense of where he was. Wasn't any planet's surface he recognized. A hand reached out from the broken metal around him, slender yet strong, its touch cool but not unwelcoming as it helped pull Marcus free of his crumpled ship. The person who held his arm had shimmering hair that seemed to glow with an inner light of silver, blue hue so pure and otherworldly, it made her stand out against the crystalline walls in a way no human woman ever could. "Your Highness," a guard's voice rang through the garden, tense yet respectful. "We need to get him inside." Princess Leonara Valsithis, though she wore robes of royal silk and starlight and her skin held patterns that shone like fractured crystal under a moonlit sky, pushed past them with an elegance that defied her youthful years. "Stand aside," she commanded softly but firmly. Her amethyst eyes never left Marcus' face as they searched for signs of injury or worse, consciousness. "I will decide what happens to him." Marcus blinked up at the princess, trying desperately to process his current predicament. The pain in his shoulder and ribs was intense enough that he wasn't sure how long it would take for coherent thoughts to return. "Either I'm dead," Marcus muttered with a grimace as Princess Leonara knelt beside him, her luminous hair falling over one shoulder like an ethereal waterfall of silver, blue moonlight. "Or this is the strangest Tuesday ever." Her large eyes held his gaze steadily before she smiled faintly, though there was worry in that smile too. "Your name?" she asked, voice lilting but not unkind. Marcus cleared his throat and tried to shake off the fog clouding his mind. "Marcus Chen," he said quietly. His hand moved instinctively up to touch the faded scar across his eyebrow from old battles long past. "And you're the princess?" She nodded once in affirmation, her fingers lightly tracing over the wound on his shoulder with a soft glow that seemed both calming and healing. "I am Leonara Valsithis." He couldn't help but notice how she wore no guard or security detail around them despite their location amidst potential danger. "Your Highness," one of the guards spoke up again from behind her, slightly more insistent now. "You can't let him go unchecked." Princess Leonara turned sharply to face the man, cutting off his words with an icy glare that made even Marcus' muscles tense in surprise at its intensity. "Under my protection," she stated firmly, without another word of explanation or apology for her actions. The guard visibly swallowed and stepped back into a more respectful distance. Though he did not leave them alone entirely, others kept watch from afar while keeping close enough to react should anything happen within their reach. Marcus allowed himself one moment of silent gratitude before asking tentatively, Why are you doing this?" She hesitated slightly, as if weighing her words carefully. "I've read about humans in stories," she confessed softly, after a pause. Her eyes softened momentarily, reflecting something deep and unfamiliar even to him. Perhaps it was longing, or perhaps just curiosity. Before either of them could speak further, another Velanthari approached with medical supplies for Marcus's injuries while others continued their assessment of the damaged cargo ship behind them. "Rest now," Leonara instructed gently as he began receiving treatment from her people's healers and techs. "We'll get you sorted out." Marcus nodded numbly as she stood, taking in his surroundings once more with an unsettling amount of curiosity mixed into her usual regal demeanor. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was far more going on here than just a diplomatic mission gone wrong or some random encounter between worlds. And so Marcus lay back against soft pillows while healers worked around him, trying to piece together what might have happened before and now wondering about his future entwined with this enigmatic princess, who seemed strangely at ease in such a fragile position of power. Princess Leonara Velsithis led Marcus Chen through her castle's grand halls. The walls were adorned with intricate star charts and ancient artifacts that shimmered under the soft glow of bioluminescent plants. Despite his injuries, Marcus maintained a steady pace, though he often glanced around in wonder at this alien world. "Where are we going?" Marcus asked quietly once they rounded another corner, surrounded by towering pillars carved from glittering crystal. His voice was tinged with curiosity and the underlying tension of not knowing what awaited him next on this unfamiliar planet. Leonara's amethyst eyes met his briefly before she turned to address one of her attendants who had fallen behind, but now hurried alongside them. "Prepare my mother for an unexpected visitor," Leonara instructed, her tone carrying a gentle authority that left no room for argument yet was not unkindly spoken. The attendant bowed deeply and hastened off with swift grace down another corridor as the princess continued leading Marcus towards what seemed to be an audience chamber of some kind. The air grew cooler here, heavy with power rather than just cool stone or plants. As they approached a large set of double doors carved from translucent blue material that shimmered like water under dim light, Leonara paused and turned back to look at Marcus again. "Marcus," she began softly but clearly, her voice echoing in the corridor's silence despite its quiet volume, "you need not be afraid." Here was something he knew well, that had been his constant companion through too many battles fought with little purpose. But now fear mingled oddly with a burgeoning sense of wonder at this strange new world and its inhabitants. "Thank you," Marcus replied, grateful for her reassurance, even as doubts gnawed away inside him about what awaited them beyond those doors. He didn't know why she had brought him here, or what exactly was planned, but felt an inkling that whatever happened next would be crucial to both his fate and hers. Together they stepped into the audience chamber, where the true weight of Leonara's station became apparent. The room itself was a marvel, filled with towering crystal formations reflecting light and prismatic patterns across walls, covered by intricate frescoes depicting Velanthari legends. A throne sat at one end, crafted from the heart of some ancient tree, stone, or metal so pure it almost seemed alive. Queen Mathera rose as they entered, a figure of regal power and grace, whose eyes immediately sought out Marcus with a sharp intensity that made his blood run cold momentarily despite himself. She was far older than her daughter, every line in her face telling tales beyond comprehension. Ancient wisdom gleamed beneath the surface, like starlight behind dark clouds. "Your Highness," Leonara greeted her mother respectfully yet firmly. There was something different about how she addressed her now that made Marcus notice more closely despite his lingering discomfort. He felt a strange bond forming between them already, one born out of mutual understanding and shared defiance against whatever forces held their worlds captive in this moment. "Leonara," Queen Mathera acknowledged her with quiet respect before turning those same piercing eyes towards him once again. "Marcus Chen." The human's breath hitched. How did she know his name? He opened his mouth to speak, but nothing came out initially, only a choked sound that must have been somewhere between a cough and an exclamation of surprise. "Mother," Leonara interjected boldly, then as her mother seemed poised on the edge of something crucial. "I want him." The courtiers around them froze in their tracks at this unprecedented declaration, gasps escaping from several throats, simultaneously like small ripples through calm waters suddenly disturbed by a stone thrown carelessly into it. Marcus felt his eyes widen with shock and disorientation. He couldn't make sense of what was happening. "I'm sorry," Marcus managed finally to choke out despite the surrealism clouding his mind, staring between mother and daughter in bewildered confusion. Queen Mathara's gaze sharpened further on him now, as if seeing something beyond physical sight lines. There was a weight there like she could measure not just who he was but what he might yet become under these strange stars. Her eyes narrowed slightly, with focus turned inward, then outward again, assessing and calculating in equal parts before finally speaking. "Bring him closer," her voice commanded softly, but it carried an authority that made even Marcus move forward without hesitation, because there were echoes here of command, not only from royalty, but survival itself, a warrior's mind dictating action over paralysis. Marcus approached the throne slowly then, unsure yet trusting enough to follow Leonara's lead, who moved beside him guiding with quiet strength, rather than any physical touch. They stood a few steps away as she turned back toward her mother once more, determination clear in every line of her posture, despite the gasps and murmurs that rippled through those gathered nearby. "Marcus," Leonara addressed him now directly, though softly so others did not overhear what was said next. "The truth is, I've read about humans." Her eyes softened briefly with a mix of longing and curiosity he couldn't begin to parse. "There's something different in your stories of marriages based on true connection rather than political alliance." Marcus blinked back at her, slowly trying to follow the thread she was weaving through this strange tapestry. "I don't understand," he admitted honestly. Leonara took a deep breath then, looking between him and her mother one last time before turning resolutely toward Marcus again, who still stood slightly bewildered by all of it, but willing to listen, if only because there didn't seem any other options available right now in this surreal situation. "Mother," she began once more with renewed resolve clearly visible even through the soft lilt of her voice, "I want him. He is different, carries an ancient bloodline that matches our prophecies, the line of heroes who fought alongside ours against old enemies." Marcus' eyes widened further at this revelation. He had no clue what she was talking about, prophecy or otherwise, but there was a sincerity in her tone, the way her amethyst gaze held his unwaveringly with such intensity that it made him feel almost chosen. The Queen's expression shifted then from guarded to something deeper and more complex, perhaps awe mixed with deep-seated memories of battles long past fought alongside ancient human allies. "Your bloodline," she murmured slowly, as if tasting the words themselves, "carries within it an echo of old alliances forged during times when darkness threatened both worlds." Marcus felt his heart clench painfully tight. Then whatever this was, it mattered deeply, not just for him, but also these people standing before him now, in all their regal splendor and ancient power. He didn't know what he could offer them beyond himself, a man with scars on skin rather than armor, who had chosen peace over war long ago, when battles grew too meaningless. Yet here amidst this alien grandeur something seemed to align strangely within his soul. Perhaps it was simply the way Leonara looked at him now, or perhaps there truly was more beneath surface appearances. "Your Highness," Marcus spoke then, voice steady despite every doubt and fear gnawing inside him. "I don't know what I am here for, but if you need me to help in any way, I will." Leonara's eyes softened at this, even as Queen Mathara seemed to draw herself up taller still, with a sense of purpose now clear on her face. once again despite moments before seeming frozen by surprise and revelation. Marcus Chen, she spoke then with absolute certainty that left no room for doubt. Your presence here today is not by chance. You carry within you the potential to reshape destinies. He swallowed hard against sudden dryness in his throat. Whatever came next would be crucial, both for him personally, as well as this entire world caught between old alliances and new dangers. Then Marcus said firmly, after another moment, "Let us begin." The palace grounds were bustling as Leonara and Marcus made their way back to her chambers after a brief audience with Queen Mathera. The air was thick with tension, whispers of excitement and fear following in their wake. Marcus had never felt so out of place yet oddly at home simultaneously. "Your Highness," he addressed Leonara softly once they were alone, "I need you to tell me everything." Leonara hesitated for a moment before nodding slowly. She led him into her private chambers where she could speak freely without eavesdropping ears picking up their conversation. "I have been reading human literature in secret," Leonara began as soon as the door closed behind them. "And there's this concept of love marriages. It's different from what we do here. I don't want to be married just for political reasons. I want someone who loves me and respects my choices." Marcus nodded thoughtfully, trying to process her words while keeping an eye on his surroundings. Every corner seemed like it might hide a listening servant or guard. "Tell me more about this prophecy," he pressed gently. "How does my presence fit into that?" Leonara's eyes darkened momentarily before she spoke again. "Our ancient scrolls speak of a hero from another world who will rise to protect Valentherio when darkness threatens us once more. The markings on your skin, the patterns etched by countless generations back, they align perfectly with our oldest prophecies." Marcus ran his fingers through his hair in frustration. "I don't even know what I'm supposed to be protecting you from or how." Leonara took a deep breath and leaned against her desk, gazing out at the night sky visible through large glass panels on one wall. "Mother told me about old alliances between our two peoples," she continued softly, but with determination. "But there are others who don't believe in such ancient ties like Chancellor Vorath." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine as he recalled meeting the man earlier that day, a powerful figure whose stern gaze and rigid demeanor left little doubt of his authority. "What does this mean for me?" Marcus asked, eyes narrowing slightly. He knew when someone was up to no good. Leonara's hand clenched into a fist on her desk, bioluminescence flickering faintly around it as she struggled with what needed to be said next. "Vorath wants you gone," Leonara whispered finally, turning back towards him with an intensity in her amethyst eyes. "He sees the prophecy and your presence here not as a blessing but a threat." Marcus's jaw tensed, knowing this was coming down to one of those choices that couldn't be ignored or brushed aside. "Can you protect me from him?" she asked quietly, after another moment passed between them in tense silence. His response was immediate. "I'll do whatever it takes," he vowed without hesitation. Later that evening, Marcus found himself wandering the palace's vast corridors alone, while Leonara attended a royal feast with her mother and the courtly elite. The halls were mostly empty save for an occasional servant rushing to attend some urgent matter. It was during these quiet moments of solitude when one guardsman approached him cautiously from behind. "Sir," he started nervously, "I have been instructed by Princess Leonara to ensure your safety tonight." Marcus' instincts flared up instantly as the guard's warning set off a series of internal alarms within him. He nodded tersely, his gaze sharp and assessing now that it was clear danger lurked just beyond every shadow. "Thank you," Marcus replied simply yet firmly before excusing himself from the guard to find some place where he could prepare for whatever might come next. The palace gardens seemed an unlikely location, but also a quiet spot away from direct scrutiny, perfect if trouble found him there first instead of waiting around in his quarters. Back inside her chambers, Leonara watched worriedly as she received urgent reports through secure channels indicating that Chancellor Vorath had begun to mobilize security forces against Marcus' supposed disloyalty. Her heart ached for the human who now seemed so entwined with her fate without even knowing it yet. As night fell and preparations intensified across Velantharia, Leonara made up her mind to act. Without delay, she slipped out of the palace dressed in simple garments that blended well under starlit skies rather than her usual regal attire. Each step took her closer to Marcus' location, where she knew he would be watching his back against invisible threats unseen, but anticipated by both their hearts now entangled despite worlds apart. Meanwhile, outside, amidst darkness and shadow, Marcus had already set up makeshift defenses around the secluded garden corner. Anything from broken pipes found in maintenance rooms turned into crude weapons or sharp edges of stone ground smooth through ages of wind and rain, becoming tools ready for use. His training as a military engineer kicked into gear automatically, without conscious thought needed about right tool versus wrong one anymore. Suddenly, movement caught Marcus' eye. Just past the trees lining his chosen vantage point for figures emerged from darkness armed with blades gleaming ominously under moonlight, reflecting off polished metal edges meant to end lives rather than just threaten them. He held perfectly still, waiting until they got close enough before acting swiftly. Each assassin and met their fate silently struck down by engineered ingenuity, turning the once peaceful garden into a battlefield where only Marcus stood unharmed yet worn from struggle against trained killers sent specifically for him. Leonara arrived shortly after, hearing sounds of combat echoing through night air, her heart pounding wildly as she rushed towards the commotion. She skidded to halt near the clearing where lights flickered off and on like fireflies dancing amidst chaos left behind by violent confrontation just moments ago when death itself visited garden under moonlight's watchful gaze. "Marcus," Leonara gasped softly, rushing forward almost automatically without thinking about how dangerous her approach might be given lingering threats, still unseen, but present nonetheless. She could feel crystalline patterns glowing brighter all over skin, no physical manifestation of emotions running wild through her veins right then as reality clashed with dreams once held only in books read late into velvety nights. You are covered," she stammered out, eyes widening further at sight before her yet unable to look away from him. He was standing there amidst fallen bodies who dared challenge his survival instinct born of necessity rather than pretty etch wound healed instantly upon its creation with precision and efficiency beyond any natural ability known within their realm. Marcus shrugged off her observation casually, even as blood dripped slowly down one arm, staining his clothing darkly where injury marked recent battle. "Tuesdays," he quipped lightly, despite injuries inflicted clearly showing strain on body language alone, while heart rate still raced from adrenaline high of combat against trained killers meant to eliminate him completely. Leonara's eyes softened further, if possible, as she saw sincerity behind that jokey, a reminder that even amidst danger and chaos, there remained moments worth cherishing, or at least finding some semblance thereof. And it was in those quiet seconds between storm's wrath where two hearts found unlikely resonancy, both recognizing dawn approaching, heralded by night's end. "Thank you," Marcus murmured finally, once assassins were truly dealt with, now scattered back into dark corners from which they came seeking vengeance, but instead met justice swift and merciless, handed out coldly yet precisely, without room for mercy or hesitation. Each blow landed felt like echo of prophecy fulfilled rather than personal vendetta carried through bloodlines old as time itself. Leonara's hand reached forward tentatively, resting lightly on his shoulder in silent acknowledgement before withdrawing just as quickly due to sudden realization she had no right nor authority over him, despite feeling otherwise internally deeply within herself. Yet there was resolve now evident. Whatever came next needed clear path laid out, or else fate would twist cruelly against both of them. "Marcus," Leonara spoke again, voice firm, but tinged with worry still lingering unresolved beneath surface calmness required for survival amidst court intrigue and political machinations aiming to destroy any true connection forming between them. "We need a plan moving forward." He nodded slowly in agreement, knowing this was just beginning rather than end of their journey together, no matter how harrowing night's events turned out, ultimately proving they stood stronger against adversity, faced head on rather than avoided through cowardly avoidance. "Let's find somewhere safe," Marcus suggested practically, while Leonara agreed quietly with determined nod, both understanding now more clearly that love and trust had to be earned amidst perilous times, when only true hearts remained unwavering despite world falling apart around them. The sun had barely begun to rise over Valentheria, casting long shadows across its crystalline spires and verdant plains, when Marcus Chen was summoned to meet Queen Mathera in her private chambers. His heart raced as he followed a pair of guards through the labyrinthine corridors of the palace, each twist and turn bringing him closer to what felt like an inevitable confrontation. The chamber door opened before him with mechanical precision, revealing a space bathed in soft luminescence. The queen sat regally on her throne, like chair at one end, its back facing large windows that offered a panoramic view of Valentheria's stunning landscape under the morning light. Marcus' eyes darted nervously around the room. It was clear he wasn't alone. "Enter, Mr. Chen," Queen Mathera called out in an imperious yet slightly softer tone than usual. Her voice seemed to resonate through the space with a weight that suggested more was at play here beyond simple political etiquette. Marcus stepped inside cautiously and bowed respectfully, despite feeling utterly bewildered by his presence there. The queen's eyes bore into him, sharp but not unkindly, as she gestured for him to take a seat across from her. He did so hesitantly, the air thick with an unseen tension that gnawed at his nerves. "Mr. Chen," Queen Mathera began after several moments of awkward silence, "I understand you have been through much in recent days." Her voice was laced with concern and something deeper, perhaps a trace of regret or empathy, despite her regal demeanor. Marcus nodded slowly, trying to gauge the direction this conversation might take. He kept his responses short and polite, mindful that he was still navigating uncharted waters within Valenthari politics and culture. "Yes, Your Majesty," Marcus replied cautiously, though he felt more comfortable addressing a monarch with such informality after Leonara's repeated assurances about her world's unique customs. "Allow me to explain why you are here." Queen Mathera sighed deeply, as if gathering courage for what she was about to reveal. "For generations, our people have revered an ancient prophecy, a vision of the future that foretells a significant event involving both humans and Valenthari. Marcus' eyebrows shot up at this revelation. He had heard vague whispers among his crew about prophecies surrounding their arrival on Valentharia, but never expected to be directly involved in one. A prophecy? Marcus repeated, trying to keep skepticism from creeping into his tone, even though the idea sounded far-fetched given everything else had experienced so far. Yes, Queen Mathera confirmed, and I have reason to believe you are its center. Marcus snorted lightly, feeling a mixture of incredulity and discomfort wash over him at these words. He was just an ordinary cargo pilot from Earth, who had found himself in the middle of something much bigger than he could ever comprehend. Just a cargo pilot, Marcus said with forced lightness despite his internal turmoil. Surely you have more important matters to deal with, like your other daughter's marital arrangements. Queen Mathera's gaze softened slightly as she leaned forward across her desk-like surface, the luminescence casting delicate shadows around them. Mr. Chen, she began earnestly, let me show you something. Her hand gestured towards a holographic projector embedded in the center of her table, which instantly flickered to life with swirling patterns and intricate lines that formed into an ancient map dotted with symbols he couldn't begin to interpret. The Queen's fingers traced along certain points on this hologram, each movement precise as if conducting some invisible orchestra. This, she said emphatically, highlighting one particular region, is the location of a human settlement known in our histories as New Haven. New Haven? Marcus echoed blankly, trying to connect these dots with his limited knowledge. Yes, Queen Mathera continued gravely. It is here that your Grandmother, Valenthari woman named Arenfold, after falling deeply and irrevocably in love with a human man during the First Alliance era. Marcus' breath caught at this news, surprise mingling with disbelief coursing through him like an electric jolt. Wait, Marcus interjected sharply as comprehension dawned. My great-grandmother was Valenthari? Araneth, Queen Mathera confirmed softly, her eyes reflecting sorrow and admiration intertwined. She reached out again to another section of the hologram that displayed a series of names branching off from Araneth, culminating in his own name, Marcus Chen. See, she said gently, tapping on the last entry with reverence. Your bloodline is interwoven deeply into Valenthari history and heritage. The revelation hit Marcus like cold water splashing over him. His whole life had been a series of coincidences leading to this moment: the crash, landing in Valentharia, meeting Princess Lyanara amidst turmoil and danger, and now it seemed fate itself was drawing these threads tightly together. Why am I here? Marcus asked quietly, after several heartbeats passed between them, his voice barely above a whisper, but laden with unspoken weight. Queen Mathera's eyes softened further at this question. Because you are the key to fulfilling that prophecy, she explained solemnly. Your presence on Valentharia is not just chance, it represents something far greater and more sacred than mere coincidence. Marcus blinked rapidly, trying to process everything swirling through his mind. From being an outsider looking in at royal intrigue to suddenly becoming a pivotal figure in ancient prophecies felt like waking up inside someone else's dream. Me? Marcus echoed numbly, shaking his head slightly as if hoping the surrealism would dissolve with denial. Yes, Queen Mathera affirmed gently. Your journey here is part of an even older narrative that speaks not just to our past, but also holds promise for a shared future between humans and Valenthari. Marcus' thoughts raced through memories and connections, snippets of stories he had heard from his own family, about distant relatives who had married outside their culture, or the mysterious great aunt no one ever talked about openly. Why wasn't I told? Marcus asked finally, feeling anger and hurt bubbling up within him at this revelation. If it was true that his lineage stretched so far into Valenthari soil, why hadn't anyone spoken of such connections until now? Queen Mathara's expression tightened slightly before she answered honestly. The truth about Araneth was suppressed for generations due to political pressures and fear, she admitted softly. But times have changed. It is time we face our history openly. Marcus looked at her then, seeing the weight carried by years of silence and suppression, decisions made not out of malice, but a desire to protect what remained of unity amidst war. And Leonara? Marcus asked suddenly, realizing how much this revelation must mean for Princess Leonara, if it involved their shared history. She knows about all this? Queen Mathara nodded once solemnly before her expression softened with pride and concern interwoven clearly visible. Leonara has long held a secret passion for understanding human culture beyond politics, she explained quietly, almost reverently. Through forbidden texts and ancient records hidden deep within our archives, she uncovered much of your family's history and more. Marcus felt an overwhelming mix of emotions, awe at the princess's dedication to uncovering truths, protectiveness towards her, because they now shared a deeper connection than he could have imagined. I need to see her, Marcus said quietly, after several moments passed between them. We should discuss this together. It's too big for just one person. Queen Mathara nodded once more in agreement before gesturing for him to follow the same route back through palace corridors where they had entered, her gaze softening as if understanding something profound about their unlikely bond. Go, she said finally with a small but genuine smile. Take what you have learned and find your own path forward. Marcus nodded once more in acknowledgement before turning away from Queen Mathara. As chambers towards the direction Leonara would likely be found, his mind buzzing with revelations as he walked through Valentharia's majestic halls. When Marcus arrived at a familiar meeting place near the gardens, where they often ventured together during moments of respite, amidst all chaos surrounding them, he found Princess Leonara already there. She stood alone under the soft glow of early morning light filtering between lush foliage, her silken robes shimmering with delicate starlight patterns that seemed to shift subtly, in tune with her emotions. Leonara turned at his approach, eyes widening slightly upon seeing him, but quickly settling into a familiar warmth, as if she knew what he needed before words could convey such depths of understanding. Marcus, she breathed softly, almost reverently once they stood close enough for quiet conversation away from prying ears or guards assigned to protect them. I need to tell you something important, Marcus began hesitantly, feeling both excitement and fear mingling within him as he shared everything Queen Mathara had revealed about their intertwined histories. Leonara listened intently throughout his explanations, eyes shifting between moments of surprise, awe, and eventually a serene acceptance that seemed almost miraculous given recent turmoil. By the time Marcus finished speaking, Princess Leonara's crystal patterned skin was glowing softly, with an inner light reflecting joy and relief alongside newfound purpose. She stepped forward to place her hand gently over his heart, both in comfort and perhaps as acknowledgement of shared destiny now unfolding before them without fear or hesitation. Together, she whispered firmly yet tenderly, we can face anything. Marcus nodded once more, feeling a deep connection resonate between them despite their vastly different backgrounds. In this moment, it felt like all barriers had fallen away, leaving only trust and mutual understanding to guide them forward into whatever challenges awaited next. We will find our way, Marcus affirmed quietly before looking up towards the rising sun breaking through Valentharia's skyline, with renewed determination glowing in his brown eyes. With that silent vow shared between them under early morning light, both humans and princess prepared themselves for the journey ahead, ready to embrace their future hand in hand amidst prophecies fulfilled. Marcus stood at the edge of Valentharia's grand gardens, his heart racing as he recalled Queen Mathera's cryptic advice and the weight of their shared destiny. The morning light was a soft caress against his skin, casting long shadows from the intricate pathways that wound through this tranquil haven. He took a deep breath, calming himself before stepping forward to where Leonara waited. Princess Leonara stood under an ancient tree with delicate leaves rustling in a gentle breeze, her silver, blue hair shimmering like stardust caught between two worlds. She turned at the sound of his approach, and their eyes met theirs wide with a mix of hope and anxiety, hers warm but resolute. "Marcus," she whispered softly as he drew near, stepping out from under the tree to stand beside him on the sunlit path. "I've been waiting for you. I need to tell you something important," Marcus began hesitantly. His voice was low yet firm, carrying a sense of urgency that Leonara couldn't help but notice. He paused briefly before starting his explanation. "Queen Mathera spoke with me last night," he said quietly, "and she shared some incredible details about our pasts and how we're intertwined in the Valenthari prophecies." Leonara's eyes widened as she listened intently to Marcus's words, her crystal patterned skin reflecting a subtle glow of amethyst light. She felt a mix of surprise and awe at his revelation. "Are you saying that this isn't just fate?" Leonara asked softly, almost reverentially. "That we were always meant to be together?" Marcus nodded slowly, feeling the weight of those words as they settled into place within him. "Exactly," he affirmed quietly. "It's more than mere chance or destiny. It's a sacred bond that has been waiting for us." Leonara took another step closer to Marcus, her eyes shimmering with unshed tears, and an overwhelming sense of relief mingled with joy. She placed her hand gently over his heart, both in comfort and as acknowledgement of their shared future. "I know you," she said softly, the glow from her skin intensifying slightly. "I've seen the way you fight for those who can't protect themselves, how you make jokes when you're scared to hide your true feelings. I see the kindness that shines through even in darkness." She paused briefly before continuing. "You don't have to prove yourself or convince me of anything more." Marcus's heart pounded as he felt her words penetrate deep into his soul. He wrapped an arm around Leonara's shoulders, pulling her close and resting his chin on top of her head. "I didn't know how much you saw until just now," Marcus admitted softly, his voice filled with sincerity. "But I'm glad that even if everything else changes, we can stand together." Leonara lifted her gaze to meet his once more as they stood there under the morning sun, a sense of peace washing over them both like a gentle tide. "I want you to undergo the bonding ritual," Leonara stated with firm conviction. "It's the only way for us to be truly united in this world." Marcus hesitated slightly at her words, his mind racing through all that it meant and what was expected from him. "You don't even know me," Marcus murmured back softly, a mix of hope and doubt swirling within him. He wanted so badly to embrace whatever future awaited them, but the enormity of pledging eternal commitment in this foreign world felt daunting. Leonara touched his face gently with her fingertips, her skin patterns glowing brighter as she gazed into his eyes deeply. "I know you fought assassins with a pipe when no one else could." She paused for emphasis before continuing. "I know you make jokes to hide your fear and keep people calm in the midst of chaos." Her hand traced over his jawline tenderly, her amethyst eyes brimming with unspoken promises and love that transcended mere words. "That's enough," she whispered firmly yet softly. "You don't need to prove anything more to me." Marcus felt a warmth spread through him at Leonara's touch and the sincerity of those words. The hesitation in his heart melted away, replaced by an overwhelming sense of acceptance and resolve. "All right," he said quietly, after several long moments passed between them, her eyes watching every flicker on his face with bated breath, while his mind raced to accept such a profound leap forward into their shared destiny without regret or second thoughts. "If this is what it takes for us, then I'm ready." Leonara's expression softened further as she felt the weight of those words sinking deeply within her heart and soul. She brought one hand up to touch his cheek again before stepping back slightly. "We will do this together," Leonara declared firmly yet tenderly with a small nod. "Tomorrow morning we will begin preparations for our union according to Valenthari traditions." Marcus nodded once more in acknowledgement as they stood there under the early morning light, their bond stronger and clearer than ever before, prepared to face whatever challenges awaited them hand in hand amidst prophecy fulfilled. With that silent vow shared between them on this serene path within Valentharia's grand gardens, under rising sun breaking through skyline, with renewed determination glowing in Marcus's brown eyes, they prepared themselves for the journey ahead, ready to embrace their future together amidst prophecies fulfilled. This chapter captures both characters' profound emotional and spiritual growth, solidifying their bond while setting up a pivotal next step toward fulfilling their shared destiny against all odds. The morning sun had barely broken over Valentharia's grand skyline when Marcus and Leonara found themselves standing in front of the towering, crystal-laden spires of the bonding temple. The air shimmered around them with a surreal beauty as they stepped into the threshold, each aware of the momentous decision that lay ahead. Leonara led him through ornate doorways and along intricate paths paved with luminous stones, her steps confident despite the weight of expectations bearing down on both their shoulders. She glanced back at Marcus once, offering a reassuring smile, before pushing open another set of doors to reveal an inner sanctum bathed in light that seemed almost divine. The temple was quiet when they arrived, too quiet for such a significant event. However, as if drawn by the strength of Leonara's presence, members from both their worlds soon began filtering in, representatives of the Valenthari royal family and Marcus's few friends who had managed to accompany him here through diplomatic connections. Queen Mathera herself appeared last, amidst an entourage of guards and advisors, her gaze sharp yet unreadable. Her eyes met Leonara's briefly before landing on Marcus with a calculating look that made his stomach knot into uneasy coils. It was clear this wasn't merely about love, it involved intricate political machinations as well. As they prepared for the bonding ritual under ancient Valenthari customs, Leonara took Marcus aside to explain some of its finer points, how the ceremony would forge their bond through an exchange of blood and vows exchanged beneath a celestial canopy. She spoke softly but firmly about the traditions, her crystalline skin patterns flickering faintly with each word. "Remember," she murmured, placing a hand over his heart, "what we share goes beyond any formalities or royal decrees." Marcus nodded solemnly in reply, his grip tightening on her waist as if to reaffirm their connection against all odds. The air buzzed around them now with tension. Everyone knew this wasn't just about the two of them anymore. Suddenly, a roar cut through the temple's serene atmosphere, a sound that could only mean one thing: Vorath had arrived early. His forces stormed in from hidden alleys and secret passages, weapons drawn against anyone foolish enough to stand between him and his objective. Queen Mathura's eyes widened momentarily before she steeled herself into action. She moved quickly but gracefully towards the altar where Marcus stood protectively over Leonara. The room erupted into chaos as guards clashed with Voreth's soldiers, while nobles scrambled out of harm's way. Marcus shielded Leonara behind him, his hands tightening on hers in mutual support despite the battle raging around them. They fought back to back against their assailants, Marcus using whatever tools he could find or craft from debris lying nearby, his military training kicking into overdrive, Leonara wielding her own array of royal guards' weapons with surprising skill. Voreth himself advanced towards them, his eyes blazing in fury and betrayal. "You dare defy me?" he roared at Marcus while swinging a longsword aimed directly for Leonara's head. Before the blade could cleave through air to strike its mark, it was met mid-swing by an invisible barrier generated from within Queen Mathura. She stood tall before them now, her figure casting off years of frailty and illness as ancient power surged through every fiber of her being like a waking dragon beneath snow-capped mountains. Her eyes blazed with cold fury while a shimmering aura enveloped all in reach, a protective force field that kept the enemy at bay. "Enough," she commanded loudly, voice echoing around the chamber like thunderclaps reverberating off mountain cliffs during summer storms. Queen Mathura's hands formed intricate patterns through air as she channeled this latent power into an overwhelming surge of energy. It coursed outward in wave after pulsing wave against Voreth and his men, until they were forced back step by step, then pushed out entirely from the temple grounds like unwanted guests being expelled by a wrathful host. As soon as all immediate danger was dispelled, Queen Mathura turned her gaze once more towards Marcus, who still held Leonara close behind him. A rare flicker of emotion passed over her feature, something akin to pride, and perhaps even approval. "Perhaps," she whispered softly, so only those closest could hear, "my daughter chose well." With that quiet statement hanging between them like an unspoken promise in the aftermath of battle's fury, Marcus felt a strange mix of relief and awe wash through him. He didn't know what this meant exactly, how much his presence here influenced her opinion, or if she simply saw potential others might overlook, but it mattered little compared to surviving such a harrowing ordeal together. The ritual continued under safer conditions now that Voreth's immediate threat was subdued, though tension remained high until Marcus and Leonara exchanged blood vows before their assembled audience. The air buzzed with magic as tendrils of light danced between them during the ceremony, itself weaving intricate patterns symbolizing eternal union in both worlds' traditions. When it came time for final blessings, Queen Mathura stepped forward again despite her lingering weariness from recent exertions. Her voice resonated deeply within Marcus's heart when she declared his acceptance into their royal family as Prince Consort of Valentharia, first human ever to hold such a revered title among these crystalline people. The moment the formalities concluded and they were officially bonded, there came a collective sigh of relief mixed with applause from gathered attendees. It was then Leonara stepped forward unbidden towards Marcus amidst this whirlwind celebration, pulling him into a gentle yet passionate kiss under the starlit ceiling created by temple's enchantments. "Best Tuesday ever?" she teased softly against his lips, once parted enough to speak without inhibitions. Marcus chuckled lightly before wrapping one arm tightly around her waist while responding with heartfelt sincerity. "Definitely top 5. And so ended this chapter of their story. Amidst trials and triumphs alike, Marcus Chen had found not just love, but acceptance among a people far removed from his humble beginnings as cargo pilot and former soldier. With Lionara Vulsithes by his side now more than ever before, through blood ties unbreakable, they stood ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead together, under crystalline stars watching over them with silent vigilance. This chapter captures the emotional culmination of Marcus' journey alongside Princess Lionara, setting their love and commitment against a backdrop of political intrigue and perilous battles fought side by side. It marks not only personal growth, but also significant cultural integration as they move forward together as one unified force amidst prophecy fulfilled for both humans and Valanthari alike, under stars that gleamed like eternal guardians witnessing all.